Hi, JD here, guys, and look, I've got someone on the other end of the Skype line today who is a relatively new member of our masterclass, but in the very short, few months that he's been a member, he's an action taker. He just does not mess around, this guy. He's certainly someone who puts the foot on the accelerator when he decides to do something. And having given him that big rap, I may as well introduce him. Michael Russo, the owner of The Avenue, which is a restaurant, bar and nightclub in Orchard Avenue in Surfers Paradise. Hi Michael, how are you?
Yeah, good, thanks JD. Thanks for having me on board with your webinar.
Well, thank you, mate, and I appreciate you giving up the time to go through this with us for the next 4 hours. I'm waiting for you. I'm waiting for your reaction.
I might just go and pour myself a long drink, I think.
And the reason I'm laughing is because I've told Michael prior to this interview that it would only be 15 or 20 minutes, and I tried to see if I could get some sort of SH word out of him when I said 4 hours. Michael, can you just tell me, mate, you and your business, The Avenue, is both of you an institution on the Gold Coast. Now, you've come from Sydney originally, like I did, and you set up a nightclub come bar come restaurant in Surfers Paradise many years ago. Can you just run us through how all that happened?
Yeah. So I was originally from Sydney. Started picking up glasses when I was 16 at the Coogee Bay Hotel, and ended up moving up here into Surfers, and we set up a restaurant bar nightclub called The Avenue in 1984. And I guess over the years, you fine tune it, you know exactly how it's going to work, and it was humming along in a great little business. And then, about a year and a half ago, I got approached by my landlord, lovely fella that he is, and told me he was pulling the building down, and that I was out of there. So, luckily enough, 25 metres on the opposite side of the road was a tenancy that was available, so we moved across, came across here, and like for the first, 5 months, I was holding on to what used to work 25 metres across the road. And I'm a bit of a slow learner, and it took me a while, but along the way I was doing fine tuning, and I just could not understand, because I had a venue that looked 10 times better than what the old venue looked like. I was doing everything a lot better, the bands that I had playing, the food, we lifted everything in the way of standard, but it just wasn't performing like it did 25 metres across the road. And I think my biggest issue was that it was probably a great opportunity to rebrand The Avenue, but my brother, unfortunately, didn't want to lose the name because of all the history. Right. So when we moved across, we actually lost a lot of the people that we used to have over there drank with us for 33 years.
Yep.
They seemed to think the place was a bit too upmarket, looked too classy for them.
Well, we're actually we're showing we're showing a rotation of photos at the moment on the screen, Michael, just so everyone can get the feel for it, because it's very stylish inside. Well, it's very stylish outside and inside. So we're looking at the photographs of the inside of the tables and the chairs at the moment, and the exterior of the building with the beautiful copper tanks and stuff. So keep going, but I just wanted to explain to you that we're looking at these pictures as you're actually telling us about the new restaurant.
Yeah. And so, so then we moved across here, and things just weren't performing like they used to over the road. And so, we did a lot of fine tuning along the way, and then just could not understand why. Because I guess, that old perception of what The Avenue used to be. We used to have a couple of old taglines like Grab a Granny and Jurassic Park. And, and predominantly what's out in Surfers these days is a real young market. And so they were walking past and not even giving us an opportunity to have a look and see what we're all about. Right. And so, then that's when I started talking to you, because I was pulling my hair out. What am I doing so horribly wrong here? And we started some work on the menu, which has changed things up dramatically, and having the focus of the copper tanks out there on the menu, and that New York style Italian infusion concept has really done really well, because at the moment, the American eatery thing just seems to be dominating in Surfers Paradise with burgers and ribs and all that sort of stuff. So
exactly.
Yeah, so that side of it's worked really well for us. Yeah.
And can I ask you, Michael, in terms of the menu, and you were kind enough to give me a copy of the old menu, which was an A5 size menu with essentially a number of pages that you flipped over on a wooden board. We've got that photo actually up on the screen at the moment. We've changed it to an A3 size menu, which is a tabloid newspaper size. So if anyone's sort of familiar with the size of the Daily Telegraph or the Gold Coast Bulletin, it's considerably larger than the old one. In fact, 4 or 5 times larger. What's the reaction been that you? And we've gone quite upmarket too in terms of the look and feel of that. For one side is food and one side is drinks, of course. What's the reaction been? That came on board, I think, probably just before Christmas, didn't it?
Yeah, just before Christmas we brought that out, and look, it's been a huge hit. I guess what it did in one regard, that it gave it an identity and pulled everything together. Whereas before, I guess everything was, people were saying, here you've got a bit of Italian there, and you got a bit of French, and you've got a bit of Australian. What are you? And so, I think having that New York style Italian feel about the menu has really helped it a long way.
And do you find that these days, with the audience that you're looking for, which is a tad more upmarket than what the audience was across the road, in other words, less, and I'm being serious here, I'm going to be cheeky the way I say it, but I'm being serious, less flannelette shirts and thongs, whereas in this new establishment across the road, ironically only across the road, but because you've created an ambience which is much more upmarket, that you really need to make sure that in all of your communications it's appropriately upmarket?
Yeah, look, definitely, and what we've attracted is really well dressed, young, attractive women, and it's quite amazing because over the road I used to be known as a sausage fest, and now I've just got these really beautiful women, really well dressed, and they just love the nightclub side of things.
Yeah.
And so, and with the menu as well, because it's got that bit of class about it. We do mum for $13 a glass or $60 a bottle. Everything that I'm doing is really towards catering and looking after the women. And then in the nightclub side of things as well, like we were holding on to those old ideas of, having bands on. Now, over the road, it was a lot more pubbier and grungier. So 2 weeks ago, I sent an email out to all the bands. I cancelled all the bands, and now I've just gone to DJs, and the women are coming in, and they just love it because they just want to dance to the stuff that they love and that they know.
Wow.
And here I am hanging on to this idea that I had for 33 years because it was so successful 25 metres across the road, but over here, 25 metres, it just wasn't working. And I had sensational bands, like, world-class bands that were as good as anyone I've ever had, better than anyone I ever had over there. Yet, people just didn't like it.
So, and Michael, is the lesson to be learnt by that is that 25 yards or 25 metres, I guess you and I should call it these days, can be chalk and cheese. It can be a massive difference because
it's a game changer.
Yeah.
And I say, this is what I say. I might as well change states. Like it's 25 metres across the road, but I could have just changed states and experience, because I just thought I'd move across the road and continue doing what I was doing because it was a winning formula and happy days. Yeah. And I've pretty much started up a whole new business.
Yeah. Okay. So therefore, we're saying that 25 metres across the road, and of course the fact that you've got a brand new ambience compared to the older location, meant that you had to move very fast to wake up to the fact that this was a different audience with different wants and different needs.
Exactly. Yeah.
And in terms
but then, my...
Go on, mate.
Sorry, go on. I was just going to say, but I was holding on to these old ideas, because it was so successful, and I'm thinking, why only 25 minutes across the road doesn't it work here? And so I think I held on to that for a bit too long, but with a bit of help from the Wow Master, I've sort of been able to drop all that and have a re-look at and rethink about things. And we're currently doing the new website, and along with a lot of other things as well that are all working towards changing that perception. I think I showed you that video that I just produced, and and I think that's going. It's hit over 20,000 views in less than 2 weeks. And I think that alone has changed a lot of people's perception of what the avenue is, or what the new avenue is anyway.
And what we'll do is show that video, because that is very well produced, very classy, and pretty powerful. So we'll actually show that. Can I ask you, in terms of the average unit sale that you experienced across the road for 25 years, and I know that you can't count the average unit sale 25 years earlier, but up until when you just about left, is the average unit sale per head higher now across the road at the more upmarket establishment?
Yeah. So we're up about $13, $14 average sale than what we were over the road.
Okay, so you're saying that whatever it was across the
Per
road,
person.
yep, you're up at another $13 or $14.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. But look, my view is, and I think, Michael, we had this conversation when I, met you at the establishment itself, is that, and I come from Sydney, and so I would always say that someone from Bankstown or Parramatta will always love to go to Bondi or Mossman, but no one from Bondi, Mossman or Manly will ever want to go out to Bankstown or Parramatta. And so therefore I always say to people, if you want to err on the side of anything, err on the side of going more upmarket ambience, because you will obviously attract the right audience to that, which would be the people from the right side of the freeway, but you will also attract people who may not be normally in that target audience, because they will step up, but the people who are already up will not step down.
Yeah. No, that's so true, and that was like a slap in the face when you told me that one.
Yeah. Well, mate, and look, it's great that in a relatively short time span of the the new business, you've been able to identify those things and act quickly. And as I said at the beginning of introducing you, I mean, no one would move faster than you. I remember when it was just, I think probably 6 or 7 or 8 or 10 days out from Christmas, and I had suggested the menu idea to you. You said, "Good, let's get it going before Christmas." and so I sketched up some stuff at 1 o'clock in the morning and sent it through to you, and then we got Greg Carson, our Mr. David Copperfield, onto the artwork, and we knocked it out, which is great. Now, can I ask you this? Collecting data, that's one of my pet rants about the restaurant and hospitality business not collecting data. You're going down that path now, aren't you? And then you're being able to SMS them thereafter?
Yep, definitely. So, I'm just waiting on the artwork to come through for that, and we'll be putting that into action straight away. So, I'm offering a dinner for a person who wins and 5 of their friends, an experience to come in and dine and all on the house. And so we'll do that every month to generate some information, and then also with your suggestion as well, like the video that I did, you said pick a small little piece out of it and make a little competition out of it.
Yep.
Well, you wouldn't believe it. The competition was I ended up picking the Jesse who was making the cocktail, and I asked what, because it's a really obscure product that he was pouring, and that was the question. You wouldn't believe it. Within 5 minutes of me posting that, the guy picked the first response was the correct answer, and I've gone, "You are kidding me! How is that possible?" Anyway, but it's generated a lot of media about it, like social media about it, and people talking about it. So
good stuff.
So I plan, again, with your suggestion, to keep grabbing little snippets from that little movie that we've made, little video, and then continually run little competitions just to keep that interest and keep that video out there, because it's doing great things for us at the moment.
And Michael, you know that all of those ideas come from me. My wife Gail has nothing. She has nothing to do with any of those good ideas. All right.
Really?
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
That's not
and
what they told me to find.
the reason I bring that up is because when Michael and I were texting backwards and forwards about that idea recently, I said to him, "Of course, you realise that all these good ideas come from my wife Gail, but please don't tell anyone." You know, Michael. In that instance, let's just explain to everybody what we're talking about there. I mean, Facebook and Twitter, of course, we know the power of those these days, and you know, there's businesses out there that can be, you know, make or break based on their savvy when it comes to social media. And what I suggested to Michael is that both just organic sort of newsfeed posts and also paid advertising that he might like to test with Facebook ads, just take maybe a 30-second snippet or 20-second snippet of that particular 3 or 4 minute video that he has on his website, and then just do a Where's Wally, and take advantage of that idea that I've mentioned before to a lot of people, and that is the Sprinkles Cupcakes concept in America, where there's a chain of cupcake stores called Sprinkles Cupcakes, and they invite everybody to look at their Facebook and Twitter page at 5 a.m. every morning, and they post a whisper word. And if you're one of the first 50, which of course, you know, they'll take 500, but they say one of the first 50, to come into a Sprinkles Cupcake store and whisper today's whisper word, let's say it was sunshine, then you get a free cupcake. But 70% or more people buy bagels, coffee and more cupcakes. So it's a great lead generation. So I said to Michael, why don't we do a more sophisticated version of that and actually post on both Facebook ads and just on Facebook and, you know, Twitter itself, a little snippet from his video that he has on his homepage, and do a Where's Wally and say, look, what was the colour of the dress that the girl's wearing just after the DJ appears on the screen? Or in Michael's instance, he said, let's pick the actual alcoholic drink that Jesse's pouring just after blah, blah, blah. And what it does is it not only sort of engages people, but guess what? It gets them to watch your video over and over again. And what do you think that's doing? It's creating a brain tattoo. And that's what we want. In the instance of that, Michael, that particular video, do you have a lot of raw footage? Silly question, I know the answer is going to be yes, but you'd have a lot of raw footage outside of that you can call upon as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I actually had the guys back on the weekend doing some testimonials as well. So, you know, we're going to be adding those to the website as well. So.
Great. And
yeah, but we've got heaps of footage.
And let me ask you on testimonials, we're going through pretty much my wheel of wow here, because I'm ranting and raving about all these sorts of things, and Michael's very kind to give me the good trigger word lead in. Testimonials, video testimonials, Michael. Now you're a bit like myself, you know, you're a bit sort of extroverted, you don't mind asking people a favour, so therefore how do you go about getting those video testimonials? Have they been easier than what you thought?
Yeah, look, everyone's quite happy to, and as you could see from that video, people are, like, none of those people in that video, which really surprises me, because there's some really cool moments within that. That's just all natural footage, just a guy walking around with a camera, and I love it, because they're just people in our venue just having a good time, and when you walk up with a camera and you ask if I would like to give a testimonial, people are just too happy to.
Yep.
Yeah, so we haven't had any issues in regards to that at all.
Well, there you go. And for anybody who's watching this who, you know, sort of says, oh, no, it's too hard to get video. No, it's not. And you might argue, well, Michael's in an entertainment sort of business, hospitality, so these people are on a high anyway. It doesn't matter. I still believe that if you've just...
Well, it has cost me a few drinks.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. But still, Michael, my argument is the guy that's just mowed the lawn for Mrs. Smith, that's the prime time for him to knock on the door when he picks up his, you know, his check or his credit card for, you know, paying for the lawn mowing, to say to Mrs. Smith, look, is there any chance if I hold my iPhone up that you'd actually be good enough to say something nice about me? Now, she's just smelling that freshly mowed lawn, and I'll bet your lottery ticket she'll say yes, and she'll say what a wonderful job he's done. And of course, if he put a little bonus in where he actually washed the windows as a value add, then of course you would rave about him. It's just that I want to highlight to everybody watching this is that it's not that hard to get a good video testimony. You've just got to capture the people at the right time, and in Michael's instance, ply them with lots of alcohol. Okay.
Works every time.
I don't think the lawn mowing guy can do that, quite frankly. Yeah, mate. Can I just ask you one last question, and that is with regards to the idea that I threw at you about New Year's Eve. Is that sort of something that you've been discussing in-house at all, and whether or not you want to try it? Yeah.
Yeah, and so, and the reason why I'm hesitant to to it is I've tried it twice now, and twice it has backfired on me. So the first one I blew up 400 balloons, and I had them all hanging in this net, and this was on the real New Year's Eve, and it was about 15 minutes before, and I had cameramen in there, like, you know, it was going to be this massive thing, balloons everywhere, and some young kid gets on some other kid's shoulders, and they ripped the whole thing down. We missed every photo. Anyway, and so then the next time we tried it was with this video, and I don't know, you probably don't even realise, but just as we were about to let off those confetti cannons, we lost power upstairs, and all our floodlights came on. And so it's like, what the hell? How is this possible twice? Anyway, so I'm going to be doing 2 confetti cannons every Friday and Saturday night at 12 o'clock with a big countdown from now on. So
great. And
hopefully,
let me just explain
things.
to our guys. I suggested to Michael that, you know, the most enjoyable night for anyone going out party wise is normally New Year's Eve. If you ask anyone what's the best night of the year from, you know, a nightclub point of view or partying point of view, they'll say, you know, New Year's Eve. And over in Disney World in Florida, at one stage they had a little island which they called Pleasure Island, and on Pleasure Island there was just a series of nightclubs. So if you can picture like a Sanctuary Cove Village, or like the Rocks in Sydney, where you're walking down a cobblestone street, but on both sides there's all sorts of nightclubs. There's a comedy nightclub, there's a Beach Boys rock and roll music nightclub, there's a funky nightclub, and there's a jazz nightclub, and so on and so forth. And what would happen every single night, not just New Year's Eve, but every single night, 365 nights a year, they'd have a countdown at midnight out on the main cobblestone street. So everyone would come out from the nightclubs and gather in the main street, and they'd have a countdown, and of course when it would hit midnight, confetti and fireworks and all sorts of things that only Disney could do went off. And I just said to Michael, a mini version of that would be just a huge hit, I reckon, in a nightclub every Friday, Saturday night, where you said, look, we're the only nightclub in town that does New Year's Eve every Friday, every Saturday night. So that's what that's all about. But of course Michael's come to grief with the with the confetti cannons, and when you say that the balloons came down, they were in a net obviously on the ceiling, were they? And then some kid pushed them and they all came down.
Yeah, some kid grabbed it and pulled them all down before anyone got a chance to get any photos, or, you know, in 10 minutes before New Year's Eve, like, it just really, oh.
But those
confettis had a great look. It's just very time consuming blowing up 400 balloons. So.
And, yeah, exactly. Would you say that when the balloons came down early like that, that would be called premature NYE? Would be. Mate, one last thing. I did say the last thing was the last thing, but it wasn't. It was the second last thing. Can I ask you this? One of the things I said to Michael in my marketing action plan for him and recommendations was that, you know, he's in the busiest street in Surfers Paradise. Orchid Avenue is the nightclub and, you know, entertainment precinct, and so therefore, as far as, you know, attracting people past his restaurant and nightclub, that's really not an issue because he's got them going past anyway. He just needs to capture them with a magnet when they're walking past. And so I've suggested a number of things to actually enhance the outside of the restaurant come bar come nightclub to really grab their attention, because I just felt at the moment it probably needs a little bit more theatre. Is that something, Michael, that throughout the next little while you'll be considering? I don't want to give too many secrets away because it's between you and I, but we've got some good ideas to really sexy up that outside of the restaurant.
Yeah. So, I'm still in the process and still battling on with the idea that we've got,
Okay.
and hopefully that will come to fruition very shortly. So
good, mate. Because
I get it out there, and
I really do think that twice the life-size statue of Donald Trump will do the trick. I really think that'll bring them in droves. Okay. Oh no, did I just give the idea away? I'm sorry. Okay. Corny gag to finish. Michael, thank you very much. It's been really nice of you to give us this time, mate. I really appreciate it. And the reason I was really, you know, anxious to talk to you is because you are obviously a doer. There's, you know, some people grab some of the ideas that I provide them, and I'm not saying every one of them will be a home run, but hopefully 6 or 7 out of 10 will be home runs, and it's been worth the 2 or 3 that didn't work to get there. And it's just been a real pleasure dealing with you, because in a very, very short space of time, you've just, you know, basically rolled up the sleeves and got stuck into it. So thank you very much for your time, and thanks for being so proactive, mate.
No, thank you, JD, and you've got 100% success rate so far. So if we keep going along this track, more than happy to speak to you anytime soon.
You know, I'm going to actually record that soundbite and play that to Gail, my wife, and say, look at 100% success rate, Gail. So stick that in your pipe and smoke it. Mate, thank
Good
you.
on you, mate.
Thank you very much, mate. All the very best. So there you have it, an entrepreneur who rolls up the sleeves and gets stuck into it. And there's no replacement for that. It's all about doing stuff. And you know, the world that I live in, with me being the facilitator of advice, it's a done with you program. When people come on board my program, it's not done for you, because I can't write the check and I can't get into the business and actually, you know, get rid of the boxes at the front door and do all that sort of stuff. It's a done with you program. But I think you can see with what Michael has just, you know, sort of explained to us there, that if you do roll your sleeves up and you join the dots and you follow the suggestions, there's a pretty good chance, there's never any guarantees in life, but there's a pretty good chance that that will pay dividends. And I've just got to take my hat off to Michael. He's a real entrepreneur. And you might say, well, that's because he comes from the hospitality business. He's had that background in being an entrepreneur. Well, yeah, maybe, but I still believe that you can be an entrepreneur no matter what the business, whether you're in a factory, whether you're manufacturing, you know, widgets, whether you happen to be a lawn mowing, landscaping guy. It doesn't really matter what you're in. If you've got the entrepreneurial flair and spirit, maybe not even the flair, that's where I can provide that to you. The ideas that I'm providing to Michael, he hasn't had to put too much more to it. He's basically just picked those ideas up and executed them, and yeah, joined the dots. I mean, the flair, the wow factor, the actual strategy comes from this side of the fence. He just makes sure that things get done. And what Michael did do, I have to say, which I'm so glad, is that he used my suppliers. And I'm not saying for a moment that you may not have a good graphic artist or a good website designer, or you might have a good copywriter or what have you, and maybe you do. But the fact is that the suppliers that I've been running with for some time are on my list because they're fast, they're good, and they're relatively cheap, okay? And whilst I can never guarantee that they won't go AWOL for some reason for a day or two, I'm not their parent, but by the same token, most of the time these suppliers, whether it be artists or web designers or, you know, copywriters or TV producers or videographers, generally speaking, they toe the line and they act fast. They provide really, really good quality, and they're pretty cheap. Anyway, thank you very much for tuning in with this. It was really good to speak to Michael, a really good case study, because the involvement that he's had with our environment has only been a few months and has already made a significant difference to his business.